April 12, 1942. Dawn breaks over the frozen plains outside Stalingrad, and the air smells of smoke, oil, and scorched earth. A lone German Panzer IV lies abandoned in a shallow crater, its turret twisted at an unnatural angle, treads torn and useless. The wind howls through the shattered landscape, carrying fragments of whispered orders, gunfire echoes, and the distant rumble of tanks trudging through mud. You can almost feel the biting frost seeping through the cracks of your uniform, freezing fingertips that tremble with anticipation. Enter Viktor Kralik, a small-framed yet stubbornly determined mechanic in his late 30s. Known among his comrades as the madman of the workshops, Viktor has a reputation that precedes him, a mind that dances on the edge of brilliance and recklessness, a refusal to accept impossible, and hands that can coax life back into the most broken of machines. Today, those hands are about to confront a challenge no one else would dare touch. Viktor crouches beside the battered tank, his eyes tracing the jagged edges where armor has been ripped away, his fingers brushing over scorched metal that seems almost to hiss under his touch. Sparks of frost cling to his eyebrows as he mutters under his breath, deciphering the silent language of the ruined vehicle. Every bolt, dent, and burn mark tells a story. A failed assault, an ambush gone wrong, a crew forced to abandon hope. Most men see destruction here. Viktor sees opportunity. He pauses, assessing the treads that are twisted like pretzels, the engine block cracked, and the turret hydraulics shot to pieces. Others would have shrugged and moved on. Viktor doesn't know that word. Impossible, he says quietly, is just another challenge waiting to be solved. A gust of wind slaps his coat against the tank's side, rattling the loose bits of shrapnel. He shivers, but not from the cold. The magnitude of the task ahead presses against his chest like the weight of the entire Eastern Front. Nearby, soldiers murmur doubts. "It's dead," one says, kicking at a rusted wheel. No one can fix this now. Viktor hears them, but their words bounce off his focus. He imagines the tank rolling again, its engine roaring, tracks gripping the earth, turrets swiveling with precision. The thought ignites something in his chest, a surge of defiance, a spark that will not be snuffed out. Hours pass as Viktor begins his preliminary assessment, cataloging damage, dragging twisted metal into a semblance of order, testing what parts remain salvageable. Each movement is calculated yet tinged with the reckless creativity that earned him his nickname. He works alone, a solitary figure framed against a gray horizon, hammer in hand, whispering calculations to himself. You can almost hear the rhythm, a tap, a clank, a scratch, each note part of the symphony of revival. But the challenge is monumental. The engine will need complete disassembly. The transmission has been shattered, fuel lines ripped apart. The turret mechanism, a delicate web of hydraulics and steel, is nearly unrecognizable. A single miscalculation could render the tank beyond repair permanently. Viktor wipes sweat and frost from his brow, his eyes gleaming not with fear but exhilaration. He knows the stakes, yet a quiet grin crosses his face. To him, every broken piece is not a barrier, but a puzzle begging to be solved. As twilight descends, painting the sky in shades of fire and ash, Viktor steps back and surveys the tank. The pieces lie scattered around him like bones of a long-forgotten beast. The wind carries the distant echoes of battle, of tanks firing, of men shouting, of lives hanging by a thread. Viktor inhales, feeling the cold gnaw at his lungs, the weight of impossibility pressing on his shoulders, and he smiles. "Tomorrow," he whispers, "we bring it back." A shadow moves along the horizon, a figure approaching, boots crunching against frozen soil. Viktor doesn't notice at first, absorbed in his calculations. But when he looks up, the approaching soldier freezes in shock. The rumor of the mad mechanic has reached the front lines, and word spreads quickly. This is no ordinary repair. This is a resurrection in the making. And as the first stars appear overhead, glinting cold and indifferent, Viktor Kralik begins the impossible. April 13, 1942. Dawn breaks again over the icy Stalingrad plains, and the silence of the morning carries a tension that could snap at any moment. Viktor Kralik kneels beside the Panzer IV, the cold biting through his gloves, turning metal into something almost too painful to touch. Steam rises from his breath as he peers into the gutted engine, tracing cracks that run like veins across the shattered machinery. Every movement is careful, deliberate, but time is an enemy he cannot ignore. The battle rages around them. Distant artillery fire shakes the earth, sending tremors through the frozen mud. Smoke curls from burning tanks in the distance. carrying the acrid scent of gunpowder and scorched steel. Every so often a shell explodes nearby, showering shards of ice and dirt. Soldiers scramble, shouting over the chaos, but Viktor is utterly focused. To them, the tank is a lost cause. To him, it is a challenge worthy of every ounce of ingenuity he possesses. Hours stretch like days as Viktor disassembles the engine piece by piece, testing each component. Broken pistons, fractured gears, and snapped drive shafts litter the ground. He mutters to himself, calculations flying faster than anyone could track. Each attempt to fit a salvaged part fails. A muffled curse escapes his lips. Sweat mixes with frost on his face, turning it into a mask of determination and desperation. The tank refuses to cooperate, but Viktor refuses to quit. He improvises, bending steel where none should bend, rewiring hydraulics with a mix of engineering precision and raw intuition. Sparks fly from welding tools, illuminating the mechanic's gaunt face in bursts of fiery light against the gray dawn. You can almost hear the metal scream as it yields to Viktor's stubborn insistence. Every failure becomes a lesson, every setback a puzzle to outwit. As the sun climbs higher, his comrades grow restless. Some shake their heads, muttering, "He'll never get it running." One soldier, a young gunner named Emil, watches silently, awe and fear mixing in his wide eyes. Emil's own father had fallen in the early days of the siege, and he knows the desperation that grips the men. Yet something about Viktor's relentless focus makes even the most cynical pause. Could it be that this madman might actually succeed? By midday, Viktor faces the harshest truth yet. The transmission is irreparably damaged. Replacing it would take parts that simply aren't available. He kicks the stubborn metal, frustration flaring. The battlefield doesn't wait. Enemy forces are advancing, and every moment spent here is a moment closer to annihilation. Viktor breathes heavily, knuckles white around his tools. Failure is not an option, and yet the odds are stacked impossibly high. Night falls, and the mechanic continues to labor under a faint lantern. His fingers bleed from sharp edges, and frostbite bites at his extremities, but his mind races faster than his body can falter. Improvisation becomes his ally. Scavenged parts from destroyed vehicles are repurposed with ingenuity bordering on madness. Gear tees are reshaped, belts rethreaded, and pistons forged anew from fragments of what others deemed worthless. Through it all, Viktor keeps a running narrative in his mind, envisioning the tank rolling once more, firing with precision, a weapon reborn. Every strike of the hammer, every wrench twist is a step closer to resurrection. Emil watches, barely daring to breathe, as a spark of life flickers in the heart of the broken machine. But just as hope begins to glimmer, a distant explosion rattles the ground with terrifying force. Dust and debris fill the air. Viktor freezes, wrench in hand, staring toward the horizon. The enemy is closer than anticipated, and the night brings a choice. Continue the impossible repair under threat of bombardment, or retreat and lose the tank forever. Viktor Kralik, the mad mechanic, tightens his jaw, eyes flashing with defiance. The battle isn't over, not yet. April 14, 1942. The first pale light of dawn cuts through a sky streaked with smoke and ash. Viktor Kralik is hunched over the Panzer IV, hands raw, breath steaming in the frozen air, mind spinning faster than the shattered gears before him. Days of struggle have left him exhausted. Yet in the depth of fatigue lies the clarity that has always set him apart from ordinary men. He studies the twisted engine, eyes narrowing on a fractured crankshaft that seems impossible to repair. Then, a spark of inspiration, a flash of recklessness that borders on brilliance. Viktor pulls from his coat a set of scavenged parts from a destroyed WWII, pieces others dismissed as scrap. His fingers move with surgical precision, reshaping metal, bending hydraulics, rewiring circuits in combinations no one would dare attempt. Sparks fly as he welds, a rhythm punctuated by the distant rumble of artillery and the occasional scream of a shell overhead. Hours pass, but for Viktor, time is irrelevant. His focus narrows to the symphony of metal and fire, the tank becoming an extension of his mind. Emil watches from a distance, heart pounding. He dares not speak, afraid to interrupt the dance between man and machine. Yet even he can see it. The impossible is bending, yielding, ready to come alive under Viktor's stubborn genius. By afternoon, the breakthrough begins. Viktor aligns the rebuilt crankshaft, tests the hydraulic flow, and for the first time, the engine coughs a low, hesitant chug that sends shivers of disbelief down his spine. Sparks of triumph light his eyes as he wipes the sweat and grime from his brow. "It's alive," he mutters, almost reverently. The tank breathes under his hands, groaning as pistons compress and gears mesh. But revival comes with danger. The battlefield is closer now, enemy tanks advancing like wolves across the horizon. Every second counts, yet Viktor refuses to be hurried. Precision matters more than speed. He guides the engine to steady life, listens to its rhythm, adjusts the tracks and turret hydraulics, coaxing the Panzer IV from death toward perfection. Emil can barely contain himself. He whispers under his breath, "It's a miracle." As night falls, the tank sits like a dormant beast, gleaming faintly under the moonlight, its presence almost regal against the desolate landscape. Viktor steps back, hands trembling from exhaustion but eyes blazing with pride. For the first time, the impossible feels tangible. He has not just repaired a machine. He has wrested it from oblivion, reshaping it with intellect, courage, and sheer madness. But victory is not yet complete. A distant flare lights up the horizon and enemy scouts moving closer than expected. Viktor's moment of triumph is shadowed by imminent danger. The tank is alive, but can it survive the battlefield? The men around him exchange worried glances. Emil steps closer, voice shaking. Can it fight? Viktor doesn't answer. He simply grips the hatch, a grim smile crossing his face. The stage is set for the Panzer IV to roll again, but the first test is yet to come. The tank, reborn by one mad mechanic, will soon face the fires of war not as a wreck, but as a legend in the making. Type continued to generate the next section. April 15, 1942. The first light of dawn spills over the frozen wastelands outside Stalingrad. Smoke curls from shattered buildings, the smell of charred steel and mud filling the bitter air. In the distance, enemy armor advances like a tide, relentless and unforgiving. Amid this chaos, Viktor Kralik climbs into the Panzer IV, hand steady despite frostbite and fatigue. The tank, once twisted and lifeless, now gleams with a quiet ministry born under his stubborn genius. He slams the hatch shut, and the engine roars to life, a sound like a predator awakened. He tracks by it into the frozen earth as Viktor maneuvers the machine forward. Emil and a handful of soldiers follow behind, wide-eyed and tense, their disbelief mixing with awe. The tank moves smoothly, hydraulics humming perfectly, turrets swiveling with deadly precision. Viktor can feel the heartbeat of the machine beneath him, every vibration a testament to sleepless nights and relentless determination. The battlefield erupts. Enemy armor opens fire, shells whistling overhead. Viktor maneuvers with skill bordering on instinct, ducking behind debris, angling the tank to deflect incoming rounds. The Panzer IV responds as if alive, turret tracking targets, engine roaring, treads gripping the mud with terrifying power. Soldiers watch as what was once abandoned rubble becomes a weapon of precision. Emil whispers to himself, "It's more than a tank. It's a miracle." Viktor's mind races faster than the engine beneath him. He coordinates attacks, anticipates enemy maneuvers, exploiting weaknesses no one else could see. Each shot fired from the tank is a testament not just to firepower, but to human ingenuity. He dodges artillery with precision, strikes back with calculated ferocity, and the enemy falters, unable to comprehend how a single machine seems to anticipate their every move. Hours pass in a blur of smoke, mud, and steel. By mid-afternoon, the Panzer IV has pushed enemy forces back, turning what seemed like inevitable defeat into a narrow victory. Soldiers who doubted Viktor now regard him with a mixture of awe and reverence. Even the commanding officers, skeptical at first, nod in begrudging respect. The mad mechanic has turned impossible into reality, a broken tank into a symbol of resilience and brilliance. As night falls, the battlefield quiets, the air thick with smoke and the scent of spent gunpowder. The Panzer IV sits among the ruins, its armor scratched but intact, engine purring softly under Viktor's touch. He climbs out, hands shaking, eyes scanning the horizon. Emil approaches, voice barely audible over the wind. "We've seen something extraordinary today, thanks to you." Viktor smiles faintly, the weight of exhaustion and triumph pressing down on him. But even as victory settles, Viktor knows the war is far from over. The Panzer IV, his masterpiece, has only begun to prove its worth. The real test, the one that will define legend, lies ahead, and in the shadows of the war-torn plains, both man and machine prepare for the battles yet to come. Months later, the war rages on, but stories of Viktor Kralik and his resurrected Panzer IV have begun to spread. Soldiers in distant outposts speak in hushed tones of the mad mechanic who defied impossibility, who took what others called scrap and turned it into a weapon that could change the tide of battle. Emil, now a veteran, recounts the tale to new recruits, eyes wide with reverence. He didn't just fix a tank, Emil says. He brought it back to life. The Panzer IV itself becomes legendary. Repaired, upgraded, and tested under the harshest conditions, it leads missions that others deem too dangerous. Enemy soldiers whisper of the machine that moves with uncanny precision, strikes with unerring accuracy, and survives assaults that would destroy lesser vehicles. Each engagement adds to its mythos, and each success reflects Viktor's brilliance, courage, and unwavering determination. Viktor, for his part, remains humble. He is often found in the workshops, sleeves rolled up, hands greasy, working quietly on engines and vehicles, always pushing the boundaries of what machines can endure. Fellow soldiers marvel at his ingenuity, his ability to see potential where others see ruin. His nickname, the Mad Mechanic, now carries a note of admiration rather than derision. Letters from commanding officers arrive weeks later, praising Viktor's contribution to key victories. Decorations follow, but he scarcely pays them mind. To him, the true reward is the sight of his work in action. A tank once doomed, now a testament to human perseverance, ingenuity, and a refusal to accept failure. Years after the war, historians would recount the story of that frozen day in Stalingrad when one man stared down impossibility. They speak of a mechanic who turned a wrecked Panzer IV into a symbol of resilience and creativity, a story passed down in military academies as a lesson in problem-solving, courage, and daring brilliance. Viktor Kralik's name becomes synonymous with ingenuity, his madness now celebrated as genius, and though the Panzer IV eventually retires, its legend lives on, etched into the annals of history alongside the names of the men who fought in the battles that shaped the world. Viktor stands beside it one last time, hands resting on cold steel, eyes reflecting both the battles fought and the hope that, even in the darkest hours, human determination can forge miracles from broken pieces. The sun sets over Stalingrad, painting the sky in crimson and gold. A silent testament remains. The tank may rust, the war may fade, but the legacy of the Mad Mechanic endures, proof that brilliance often wears the guise of madness, and that even the most broken machines, like the human spirit, can rise again.